In January 2020, Tully House Museum and Art Gallery opened the highly anticipated Treasures of China exhibition, celebrating one of our most long-standing international relationships. The exhibition featured exquisite loans from the Oriental Museum at Durham University, whose collections have been granted designated status by Arts Council England in recognition of their international importance. These rarely seen artefacts accompanied objects from Tully House's own collection of Chinese porcelain and textiles, many of which have never been on display before. Objects from our collection represent the later imperial dynasties and modern-day China. Displaying these objects alongside loans from the Oriental Museum at Durham University have given us a unique opportunity to engage local audiences with the rich Chinese history that they represent, including the Silk Road trade routes which have so hugely influenced European culture over many hundreds of years. To help audiences understand life in dynastic China and beyond, the exhibition focused on 4 principal sections. A chronological overview of the dynasty timeline, moving on to explore themes of imperial splendour and life at court, then on to the past is the present section, where we look at contemporary work honouring the past, and finally to highlight tourism and the Silk Road. The dynasty section sets out a timeline from Xia to Qing, giving visitors an overview of China's fascinating dynastic past covering 4,000 years. Spectacular objects accompanying the timeline provided an engaging visual introduction to the respective dynasties. Objects in the splendour and the imperial court section highlighted that throughout the era of dynastic rule, the imperial court in China was a centre for artistic production. This was largely due to money. Only the wealthiest elite could afford the precious materials such as gold, silver and jade that the objects in this exhibition are made from. Immense labour and time were required to produce such finely worked embroidery, jade carving and calligraphy. These vases were made in the late 19th century. The decoration may tell the story of Guo Zi. He was one of the most powerful Tang dynasty generals and became famous for his role in ending the Anlushan rebellion. Along with his sons, he became a legendary figure after his death. Decoration like this would have appealed to a Western audience. However, it's not clear if they were originally made for a Chinese or a European market. The imperial court was deeply hierarchical, and the rank of those beneath the emperor were represented by a complex system of symbols. These symbols can be found everywhere in Chinese art and culture. Only a handful of individuals succeeded in passing the exceptionally difficult state exams in order to become scholar officials. Here, visitors were able to view the beautiful robes and accessories worn by wealthy citizens and officials associated with the imperial court. The exhibition boasted stunning jade, a hard semi-precious stone that has held a fascination and power in Chinese art since before the Shang dynasty. Much of its appeal is in its rarity and in the extreme difficulty of carving it, as the stone is harder than metal and requires significant time and effort to work it. The items in this section all date from the Qing dynasty and show jade work at its most elaborate. The Chinese established the world's first meritocracy, a bureaucracy based on skill and education rather than birth, property and bloodlines. Scholars played a uniquely important role in the governing of Chinese society. Alongside their administrative duties, scholars would also study the arts and traditions of the past for the improvement of the moral self. Scholar artists and poets emerged, who developed a mastery of expressive brushwork in calligraphy and landscape painting. This section displays beautiful objects that a scholar may typically have surrounded himself with, such as magnificent jade screens, a brush pot, archery rings, ceramics and brush paintings. War is a significant factor in China's dynastic history. There was always the threat of internal fighting between warring states and kingdoms, as well as from outside China's borders. Both the Song and Ming dynasties were conquered by foreign forces, the Mongols and the Manchus. Strength came not just in numbers, but also in appearances. When combined with a mighty army of disciplined soldiers, magnificent ceremonial armour and intricately worked weapons, such as this sword on display here, demonstrated the immense imperial power and wealth. This was often enough to prevent enemies from attacking. For China's leaders, to win a war without engaging in battle was the greatest success. Many of the works in this exhibition are enhanced by beautiful decoration, but the animals, plants and other symbols that adorn these items often carry hidden meanings. Much of this symbolism comes from homophones. These are words that sound similar when spoken, but have different meanings. This section highlights some of the symbolism present in precious Ming ceramics, allowing visitors to apply this knowledge to other items in the exhibition. Contemporary artists, Chinese history, folklore, and political narratives are explored through various works from both the Tully House and Oriental Museum collections. A selection of Chinese woodcut prints from a project initiated and funded by the Mubam Foundation between 1997 and 2003 are on display. The purpose of the project was to actively support, encourage and promote woodblock printmaking in China and to preserve a moment in time of contemporary Chinese art. In addition, a large wall hanging by artist Li Wanqia is shown alongside a replica of an ancient Shang oracle bone, highlighting the importance of calligraphy in Chinese art through the ages. Leading contemporary artist Li Wanqia was born in China, studied in Taiwan, and then moved to Banks on Hadrian's Wall, England in his 40s. He was an artist, poet, and curator who funded and hosted exhibitions at the Li Wanqia Museum. The inclusion of this beautiful work from our collection marks the first opportunity for it to be displayed at Tully House. The Tourism and Silk Road section is a visual treat for visitors with a magnificent array of nearly 80 objects from Tully House's collections, exploring the influence of trade and tourism. During the Han Dynasty, a series of trade routes known as the Silk Road enabled the import of goods and ideas, including Buddhism, one of the three main religions in China. The Silk Road also allowed for the export of Chinese goods to Europe and on to Britain. This section looks at the 18th and 19th century trend in Britain for all things Chinese, including the very British thirst for tea. This two-way traffic of trade, ideas and culture set the stage for China's position in the world today. The flowers on this damask silk jacket suggest that it would have been worn in the warmer months. In particular, the peonies are an auspicious symbol of spring. This child's shoe is in the Manchu style. The Manchu, who came from Manchuria, ruled China during the Qing dynasty. The blue and white decoration, like seen on this soup dish, fueled European appetites for typical porcelain Chinese tea sets. This dish is decorated in geometric and floral designs, and in the centre there is a scholar's table with stationery on it. This aspirational scene represents wisdom and learning, which were valued attributes. The glaze on this vase is made of copper and cobalt. It was very difficult to make and shows the skill of the practitioner. The symbols and characters represent the 8 immortals of Chinese legend. This small bearded figure is Guan Yu, an ancient Chinese hero. Known as the Guard of the Warriors, he became an almost mythical symbol for the loyal warrior. Statues of Guan Yu might have been kept at home or at work and would have brought good luck to the owner. In order to deepen our visitors' understanding of Chinese history, customs, symbolism and practices, an audio guide narrated by BBC broadcaster Eric Robson was provided for the exhibition. The delicate pith paintings on display were also enhanced digitally on a touchscreen so that audiences could take a closer look at the details in these minute works, which were made as postcard gifts for the Western tourist industry.